I've got many friends who are architects and engineers, but that AI is going to absolutely take that over.
If we don't figure out ourselves faster than we figure technology, we will get into a lot of trouble.
We defer things constantly, we do it individually, and we do it at species level as well.
The value of labor goes towards zero.
It does accelerate and extinction.
You wait 10 years and there'll be 2 people with all the money in the country.
Hello, Mike Halsall is an old friend of mine. We met each other at one of the earlier Singularity universities in 2009, and we've stayed in touch ever since then. Mike's an incredible person. He is always trying to figure out how to basically make the world a better place. He's come across from many, many disciplines and thought through many deep ideas. And we just happened to have a chance to catch up, and I thought we'll just record it and share this this exchange of ideas with Mike, sort of reminiscing about the past and worrying and being hopeful about the future. I do have to apologize. I screwed up on the mic on this one, but after listening to the results, we realized that what came through in the recording was still worth putting out there, just for you to get a sense of how Mike thinks about the future. So here you go. Here's Mike Halsall. Thanks.
Hi, Mike.
Hello,
Thank you for taking this next hour to speak with me and to record this. We met, I think, 16 years ago at Singularity University in Ames, NASA.
Yes.
Boy, it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It's been mostly agreeable.
Yeah. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I was born in Cambridge in the UK, and I was sort of brought up in Deal, which is a beautiful coastal town in Kent, where Julius Caesar landed on his ultimately successful invasion of the UK. He described the invasion very well from the White Cliffs of Dover. He, in effect, turned right. And then his description of where they landed is what we call today Deal, the place I was brought up there. So I ended up doing mathematics at university, which I quite enjoyed. And then I became, strangely, a construction manager. So I was quite good with running projects, because if I could sort of conceive of the project in my mind, sort of like an in-house digital twin, and then understand the accounting. So you're steering projects by the financials, really, to make money.
But then you have to deal with people too.
Yes, of course, but there has to be this sort of baseline
discipline,
of understanding of projects. The people are, of course, always entirely the massive challenge. The project, in effect, is relatively trivial, but it's finding the right team and getting them to work together so that they do get along. So anyway, in construction, after construction, I realized that if I met up with my mates and wore a suit as a construction manager, we could raise money from banks, and then we could become a developer. So a developer is a builder, as it were, who can wear a suit and raise money from a bank. So I did some
construction.
Yeah, so you have a core skill that enables you to build things. So I did some of that for quite some time. I mean, my life is just flashing past decades per sentence.
What's the development you're most proud of?
Well, we built mostly public sector projects. So I think that some of the schools and hospitals and prisons, prison extensions, not prisons, were very well built projects in the UK. So I suppose in London, I remember building Bishop Challoner School, which is in East London, which was a very difficult project. But when I built prisons, people thought I was a bad guy, because if you're involved in building prisons, you must be bad. But then the projects moved to building more hospitals, and people thought I was a good guy. But I was the same guy building what government needed, basically.
So the weird thing is, how did you end up in Singularity University? Because you're the only construction guy there.
So one of my relatives, Chris Stott, who ran a business called Mansat, which is about sort of making satellites more available to poorer countries, basically. We got invited to the nighttime launch. So me, my then wife, and our 4 young kids were guests of NASA And it was just the most extraordinary experience. And through that, I met a guy called Bob Richards, who was a silent partner at Singularity. So that was the sort of coming together. And I made a modest donation to Singularity when it was a non-profit. So I got involved through that, and through Chris Stott's involvement with, of course, with his wife, Nicole. And she launched onto the space station twice, actually, and stayed there for quite a long period of time.
Wow.
I remember I sent her an email I think it was a day before or some hours before, and I said, hey, feeling about it? She said, massively zen.
You got to go to the Zen mode. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd worked in Germany. We'd been involved with some quite successful transactions there. And Chris called me up and then mentioned the launch. I went to the launch, met Bob Richards and some other people. And so it was all a massive haphazard, sort of like a squash ball.
Sort of wandering into the Singularity.
Yeah. And it was fascinating. But when I first heard about Singularity University, I thought it was about physics and mathematics. Thought it was about the mathematical singularity.
Yeah. That's why you got interested.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating. And then they sent me some documents, and I thought, what's this? It's Ray Kurzweil. Who's that guy? I don't know what this is all about. And this idea of the singularity, as it were, the technological, economic singularity, where changes happen at such a rate that beyond that change,
can't tell.
We're in a different paradigm. And of course, in another paradigm that's through an exponential rate of growth, you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And that, for me, now seems like 16 years later from when we met, but this was the year before, in 2009. It does seem like you can feel these things are starting to happen, as it were, computationally. Where things go from there, as you say, difficult to know.
Yeah, difficult. And so, what was your big aha at Singularity?
Well, there was the first bit, which is a bit anecdotal, but rather funny. I rented this big Cadillac. I don't know why. And I was driving towards what I didn't realize actually was a secure gate for Ames itself. I had to put the brakes on and stop. And I got stopped by the American police with all their guns and stuff, wound down my window. And the guy said, who are you? They just put your hands on the steering wheel and give me ID. So I gave him my passport. And he opened it, and it had my Libyan visa in it. So, of course, so we had a bit of a chat, and I explained that I was going to Singularity University. So that was, they let me in, but I mean, there was a phone call. That was my beginning bit, was I'd gone the wrong way. And it looked like, I suppose for them, it looked like I was trying to break into
with a Libyan
visa. But actually, I never went to Libya. I was invited to go by a friend who was at the UN, Adam Townsend. And of course, then the explosion, as it were, political explosion in Libya happened. I couldn't go to Libya. Singularity, there are 3 or 4 things I'd like to say, not just one thing. I met some really, really amazing people, yourself included, who had this incredible energy to get things done in a way that in construction, we do get things done, but we're at a pace. So what struck me was you've got the same stoic ability to make things happen, but much faster. And I wasn't used to that level, that pace. That was the first thing that really struck me. The second thing was, of course, or after the incident with the Cadillac, the other thing was that there's the atmosphere in California, in Silicon Valley specifically, that I don't know how to describe it, but you can feel this humming of capability, future aspiration, everything. You can just feel it, and it's very, very strange. So when I went home, without breaking the line too much, I felt a bit down for a few days. Back to London, I thought, wow, it's not the weather. It's just this other thing about the difference between this American can-do, make it happen thing. And in the UK, we're not too bad, but we are not at that same level. And I remember listening to a podcast from Tom Blom-Feld, who was the founder of Monzo, one of the banks in the UK. And he said, it's only when you go to Silicon Valley that you really feel that you're in action and being serious and getting things done. And I think that there is some truth about that. There is a need for Britain still to sort itself out. I think a lot of that has to do with merit, is to be pushing through people.
There's one thing the U.S. has that none of us have, and that's the First Amendment.
Right.
It guarantees you the ability to speak your mind,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
there's no other country that has that as part of their constitution.
Yeah.
And I think that's the grounding of this ability to just go out, because what you say is what you think.
Right.
And to be able to think unshackled
Yeah.
is, I think, where that can-do-ness comes from. What do you think?
Well, I think that I see it differently. I think that we're a very old country by comparison. The US is a relatively new country. And I think that when you're a new country, you are more likely to be more meritocratic, get things done. You've got lots of people coming in from all parts of the world. You go to America, for example, you see an American film and you look at all the credits and it's, American people from just everywhere. So I think America is still this melting pot.
Yeah.
And I hope it stays that way.
Me too.
But we'll see. But I think that that's the difference, is that older countries get a bit stuck in their ways. They become more hierarchical. They do become more naturally nepotistic, where parents protect their children's future a bit.
Bureaucracies protect bureaucracies.
And that's the thing I picked up with Singularity. But then the final thing, of course, was this idea of collective intelligence, which is not in any way ideological. It's not about autocracies. It's not about democracies. It is a question of pure elicitation of opinion of people who might want to contribute, and the aggregation of that opinion in a form that can apply to judgment and decision making. And I'd never heard of this entire body of work before Singularity. I mean, every day at Singularity, I was there for about 2 weeks. It was incredible. And I had terrible jet lag. I'd come directly from China. And I was...
I came the same direction, I think.
Oh, yeah. You know, AM is PM sort of thing.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 days, we did the executive program, of course. The intensity, the sort of intellectual intensity and the volume of learning was so great. I mean, I just stayed in those lectures, but I was shattered. Yeah. And one time I went for a walk across NASA Research Park towards Ames, and I was crossing a road
and you didn't
thinking it was a meadow. I was so utterly, absolutely, I've never been so tired in my life, but Singularity just almost, as it were, if it could speak.
Sleep, right?
I couldn't sleep. I actually didn't sleep for 3 or 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, which is not a really good idea at all.
Unhealthy, but...
Yeah, but it was just so extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it was so bad. And one day I couldn't use the coffee machine. I didn't know how to put the pod in because I was, but then sitting in the lectures. And after about a week, you know,
someone thought you
the jet lag. Yeah, well, no, actually there was I've forgotten who his name was. He was a Russian-American guy, nuclear rocket scientist.
Rockets.
And he couldn't use it out. I said to him, "Can you help me with this?" And he said, "No, I don't know how to."
Yeah, sometimes they don't get everything right in the US.
Well, I think the IQ can be too high sometimes. Right? You know, you can be too intellectual. Sometimes it's just
or it's just crappily designed products.
Yeah, well, you're being very kind, but it was just my utter exhaustion. So Singularity for me was just this extraordinary. It was like suddenly someone opens a door, the secret door, and there is this vastness of something you've never seen before. And you think, this is just incredible. So I was hooked instantly. I think it was amazing.
How did your life change after Singularity? What did you focus on? I know you're doing a lot more now in tech, but 5 years on from Singularity.
So the first thing I did was I spoke to Salim, and I said, look, I'm going to do some of these. So Singularity has always been very good at this idea of grand challenges, which comes from Peter's sort of X Prize thing, where you would set some sort of competition, and then the winners would go to Singularity, maybe get some money, Singularity University in the US, get some money, and then meet some investors. So I did 17 of those.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sponsored them?
Yes, yes. I paid for some with friends, and we paid for prizes. So we got some banks involved. The British government did 2, or I did them with the British government. And I sent civil servants.
Oh, excellent.
So in total, I'm not sure how many people I sent there, but it was about 25 or 30. There were normally 2 or 3 prizes, and those prizes were to Singularity. So that was one thing I did. And I thought I would go down this sort of non-commercializing route of applying Singularity-ness into the UK and see what happened. And I was a bit disappointed, really, because the UK has this very hierarchical they won't like me saying, but I think it's a bit more of a medieval structure than people realize, which is not merit enough. And I also got involved with an Australian business that was very much in collective intelligence and the IARPA space and building systems for those sorts of people. When we used to have meetings occasionally in Nashville, Washington, D.C., Hawaii, and so forth. So suddenly I was going to all these places for business, not for holiday.
Your life started to be different from
Yes.
construction.
Yes, I mean, construction is 12, 14 hours a day, sometimes 5, sometimes 7 days a week. But I sort of experienced a more aspiring technological world of technology, which I thought was just incredible.
Yeah. And you sold your construction business at some point, did you? Or-
Yeah, so we had a business with some German guys, which we sold to AXA, the French pensions investment company. That was more morphed into sort of developing rather than just building. Yeah.
You know, strangely enough, yesterday I met a team that is automating construction.
In what ways?
Basically, they think they envision in maybe 10 years time, maybe 15 years time,
Right.
you have the architect just draw a sketch of what they want to build,
Yeah.
and the AIs take over from there.
Yeah.
And then they'll actually put it together with robots. You know, they'll configure the robots on the fly.
Yeah.
You know. So what do they do now? They look at some certain tasks like bricklaying.
Sure.
They'll teach a robot to do that.
Yeah.
And you save one person per robot or something like that.
Yeah.
But the idea is, to me, fascinating because you have a collection of robots and you can bring them to any construction site, you know, and you feed the sort of high level. You don't even have to be very specific about the drawing, the sketches, and they'll bring it down to plans and you approve the plans, get the permits, boom.
Yes, I worry about this sort of thing because, of course, for an economy, you need consumers, and consumers are workers.
Yes.
So it's okay. I mean, the capital intensity of that might. I'm not sure how the numbers work out, but I worry about these sorts of initiatives. I think where AI will be incredibly powerful. I've got many friends who are architects and engineers, and quantity surveyors. So sorry, guys and girls. But that AI is going to absolutely take that over.
Yeah.
Partly because the data is there. There is so much data on construction through regulations, through the fact that you can survey a building. When I was very young, when I was about 12, I used to earn money measuring buildings and then drawing them up by hand.
Oh, wow.
Most agreeable thing to do. Most agreeable. So I found it fascinating from when I was very young.
Yeah.
But of course, that is total digital domain. So you can scan a building with some various laser devices. Will tell you,
There you go.
boom, it's done. And if you aggregate all of those, you can see what is optimization for a particular building, whether it be a shopping center or a hospital or a school or whatever it might be. So AI is already at a level, or it definitely will be very soon, within 3 or 4 years maximum, where you can say, I need a school for 500 children. And you'd sit there and do a Q&A with the machine, and then it will just say, bang, thank you very much, in for planning.
Yes.
The planning should at that stage be automated, because the planning process, the approval from government should say, these are parameters, you comply, consent, proceed.
There you go. Yeah.
That could happen in a day. Now it can take 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So AI will be very significant there. And it's starting to become.
So this company wants to take those plans and assemble a group of robots and build this stuff.
Yes, well, I would encourage them to train young people so that you've got lots of humans who are employed and who are consumers who are going to maintain the economy.
But are you conflating purpose in terms of what we do versus what we really want to do?
Well, if you're a joiner or a carpenter, it's a good life.
Yeah.
It's a very satisfying life. There are things which I've been told about many times about people who make things, for example.
With
They never get depressed. It's a very interesting fact. And I don't understand what that's about, but there's something very satisfying about making things. And I think that this is something that humans do.
But can you make things without having to make things for a living and still get that same level of satisfaction?
I am a bit old-fashioned. So and I was in construction for 25 years, so I'm still a bit sort of gravitationally drawn to this idea that you need consumers for an economy.
Yeah.
I think it is important for people to work. I'm a work guy myself, so I do think it's a very satisfying thing to do work
For a living.
Yes, for a living, and to be part of a community of like-minded people.
Yeah.
This is what humans do, as it were. Now, I don't know how it works in the future if we reach this economic singularity.
We should probably explain to folks what that is, right?
Yes.
Economic singularity. So economic singularity is a very simple concept. We engineers, we business people, we make the world more efficient. And the question is, what happens if the world gets really, really efficient and productivity goes through the roof? It approaches infinity, which is a less scary way of saying the value of labor goes towards zero, right? I think first principles wise, and you if you just observe that, you realize the world today cannot function if that happens, because only a small fraction of people will have enough capital to generate dividends to live on. The rest of us won't have the ability to generate value.
Right.
So the way I look at it is, first principles wise, there's two ways to fix this. Number one, universal basic income. And number two, universal basic capital. So one way is to go all the way to make capital irrelevant. The other way is to go full on capitalism.
Sure.
So the first way I don't like, because who's going to decide how much for whom?
Yeah, right.
You end up with huge power concentrations.
Of course.
Right. The other way, I think it's possible. You need one act of socialism. And the good news is most countries are asset heavy. So they can distribute capital across the whole population. But of course, you need some AI to help people manage their capital, right? If you just have a raw capitalist system, give everyone $100 each, you wait 10 years and there'll be two people with all the money in the country. So you need people need expertise to help them manage. We have different views on work, right? I think we value work because we had to work. And we thought that was, we might as well associate good values to it. And so we feel good doing work, right?
But I worked when I didn't have to work sometimes when I was young. I enjoyed it. It's a genuinely agreeable thing to do. You make something.
Yes.
I mean, when the kids were young, I was doing this investment fund in Luxembourg then. And at the weekends, I used to drive back from Luxembourg to Tunbridge Wells at Le Mans speed. I love doing that. Very naughty. And I would build tree houses in the garden, quite large ones. I've always enjoyed working.
So that's
one of my things.
Wouldn't it be great if everyone could do that without having to worry about whether that gives them income? Just do what you really, really love to do.
Yes.
And if it generates income, great. If it doesn't, you still enjoy it, right? Or does the income determine how much you enjoy? Right.
Well, I think it does to an extent, to a greater extent. But I think the problem, the challenge is distribution here. So whatever we do, whatever ideology we have, we always have this parallel distribution of wealth.
Yes.
And the distribution of, as it were, assets in a way where you have a society in effect in equilibrium. I don't think we're anywhere close as a species intellectually to actually know how to do that. We could conceive of doing it, but the implementation of it, I think, is way beyond us to know how to do. We would need some alien with an well, maybe an alien with an IQ of 1 billion to set up and say, "This is what you do. It's very simple." We did this 1 million years ago. Try that. So maybe AI helps that with that, but of course AI is massively, as it were, burdened by
Us.
parameters of us, of what this comes from us. So I don't know. I think it's a nice concept, but I think that I go in a slightly different direction here, which is that there are sort of, you always need food, you need water,
Yeah.
you need a place to live. So, so for me, if I wouldn't be surprised if we came back in 1,000 years' time, and you look at what is going on here. I think there will always be that distribution, parallel distribution.
I
think it could be flatter, but it will still be there.
Yes, but I think the prerequisite for a functional society is that the people at the bottom still can have, of the power law distribution, still can have a fairly reasonable living.
Yes, that's right.
If you don't provide that, then you get chaos.
Yes.
So
Anarchy. I'm not suggesting this will happen, but I can imagine if you've got millions of small holdings, which is where people might live, where you grow your own food, it's satisfying. You build your own house. You've got your molecular 3D printer that makes stuff that you need. So ultimately, if you transition to that sort of environment, then I think you would have a truly beautiful Earth again.
how does the inclusiveness come about in that world that you're drawing out?
Well, right now, if you think about all these big guys in AI, so you talk about Sam Altman, Demis Hassabis, all these big guys. So they're careening down, I think, what you'd fairly say is sort of an oligopoly stroke monopolizing system of what they hope to be AGI. Whether that can happen, who knows, but we shall see. So those guys have a very monopolizing view. Yes, they want to they talk about enabling others to use their AI so they can subscribe to it and do stuff with it. So our view, which is a cautious view, is sharing foundational IP amongst members of groups of people who are participating in that means that they have the same sort of capabilities as these big tech guys, but they're more widely distributed. We think that's an area, I think it's an area where innovation is more likely to flourish than having just, for example, if take the big guy at the moment is Sam Altman, if he monopolizes AGI, I think this is very bad news for a lot of people. I think it's very bad news.
I kind of don't think that's possible because there's so many groups with so much money going after this that I think it'll just commoditize.
I think that what happens with these big companies is they raise so much money that they get locked into a return rate for investors. And then they're sort of going down the black run. And once you start doing that, you cannot stop. That's it.
Yes.
So I think that's the direction of travel that they've taken.
But there's so many open source companies also doing all these foundational models.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you believe is that groups of open source people will beat these monopolistic big monolith kind of organization.
Well, it's always going to be a fight.
Yes.
I mean, you've always got the sort of RISC-V versus the incumbents, as it were, who have more proprietary IP in chip technology. But I agree with you. The open source thing is perhaps going to get much bigger.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that battle plays out, or does it end up with a sort of an equilibrium effect where the AI satisfies certain things, the proprietary AI satisfies certain things, and the open AI space, as it were, but not open AI, so the open source AI has a different set of parameters that deal with another part of, as it were, society. I don't know. We shall see.
So I'll give you my first principles sort of read on this stuff, and maybe it'll explain why I'm not as worried. This brain we have is about 20 watts, right? So it cannot be too large, right? It has to be small enough so that it can only run on 20 watts. Right?
Unless you get a battery pack in your back and a much bigger brain extension.
So that means if you actually do get to that level of sophistication in your AGI, it should look at worst like this.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
in which case most of us should be able to afford just running the whole brain ourselves. In fact, many of them, every single individual could do that, right? And if that's the case, and there's enough people working on this stuff, that it could be quite commonplace,
Yeah.
right? In which case, then your concern about monopolies running these big brains will only, there's still validity in that concern.
Yeah.
It'll only be true in really, really tough problems like
Right.
protein folding or
Right.
decryption or,
Yeah.
sovereign level type of problems
Yeah.
and really deep science problems.
Yeah.
Right? So in which case that's okay because governments and other large organizations could go after those problems.
Right.
Most of us will have what we need.
Yeah.
That's my hope. Right? What-
Yeah, I mean, well, it's very interesting because as you said that, it made me realize that there are areas where you might not want to have too much power to be distributed. So one of the things, I mean, I worry about a lot of things about technology. So if you take synthetic biology in the wrong hands,
Yes.
that's just like a problem. I mean, it could just, it could just accelerate an extinction. So there are areas where actually you do need to have more of a governmental thing. Yeah. And in material science, there are things that you might not want to share that get classified that are very, very useful in certain areas. And you don't want just some guy going to a shed to knock that up and do something with it. So you've always got to be aware of these differences of distribution to people who might do things that ain't good.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from. The first domain that made me think very deeply about it is when I met, within the span of about 1 week, I met someone in Stanford and someone in New York, both of whom basically said, I've got the ability in my computer to design a virus that'll kill people.
Oh, yeah.
Just like that.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the only reason I can't produce it is I don't have a virus printer. So how do you control this stuff? Right?
My view is that if you're more collaborative engineering, you've got government, academia, and industry together.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that in my life I've seen before is where you've always got this absurdity of regulations behind reality.
Yeah.
So I've seen it in construction. I've seen it when I was into motorbike, very fast motorbikes. I saw it then. People die, then they do something to make it better. And you think, wow, that was always a problem. Why didn't you solve it in the financial markets? And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the regulations kind of weren't there. And they should have been there. And there's no excuse for that. They really should have been there with us as humans. We always do this. It's a thing in our nature. So as you start to develop things that are very powerful, it's always a double-edged sword, always, and that will never change. So you've always got to have regulation with academia and industry at the same place, as it were, so that you can be developing things collectively and at the same time understanding the consequences and then being able to deal with it as it happens.
The problem is we have all these very good ideas on how to fix it, except these good ideas are not in the heads of the people in control.
Right.
And so they don't get fixed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the problem right now. It's not that we don't have good leaders or smart people on the planet.
Right.
It's that they're not the ones running governments.
How are we going to have a society that's functioning, that's not chaotic, that doesn't have anarchy, that doesn't have too many bad things? You always seem to have a certain dark side of humanity. So part of what we're trying to think about in that big tapestry, as it were, of solutions to problems, our bit is collaborative engineering. That's our bit, so that we hope other people will figure out other pieces.
Yeah.
But I think you do get these. There are lots of good people in the world who have good intentions and want to make things better. So I think the good news is that there is this quite large layer of society that says, okay, there are lots of troubles. You just turn on the news every day, and there's lots of troubles in it, but there always were. And it's a human constraint. But I think that I see a lot of hope in people trying to figure out what is it that they can contribute for, as it were, the next generation, so it's better equipped to solve the challenges that are going to be very, very difficult. The challenges that they face are going to be much more difficult than what we faced,
Yeah.
I think, by orders of magnitude. Is
Yeah,
my view.
it's because the changes are going to come fast and furious.
Yes.
The exponential curves of
Yeah.
these technological changes. I think.
Yes.
I think maybe that's where, if you think of this as a filter, right? You know, the filter where civilizations don't cross certain thresholds because
Yeah.
they blow up. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, species are the same.
yeah. Why aren't there intelligent life in the universe, right? Yeah, we can't.
Remember, they are, but they just filtered us out. And we'll come back in 20,000 years'
Yeah,
time.
maybe.
They're all still killing each other. We'll come back later.
Yeah.
If I was an alien,
Yeah, you
I
stay
wouldn't come
away
in.
from-
I wouldn't come in.
Just stay away from human. Yeah, yeah. So the filter is basically this, right? If we don't figure out ourselves faster than we figure technology,
Yeah.
right? We will get into a lot of trouble
Yes.
and maybe end us
Yes.
at some point.
Well, like prior mass extinctions, if you take scale trees, which exist in was it the Carboniferous period or something, these were trees that absorbed so much carbon dioxide
Yeah.
that they caused the temperature of the atmosphere to plummet, and we had ice ball Earth. And I think something like 85,
They died
90% of everything. Yeah,
Everything died.
they died there. Well, thank goodness. But maybe a derivative of those could be quite useful if you can control them
Yeah.
to sort of figure out how to grow.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not the first time that a species is putting things on the brink, as we are definitely doing right now. It's quite funny where people say, well, you know, the climate's had ups and downs of temperature before. Yes, they've understood. But the rate of change, which is what you're talking about, the rate of change is an issue. And the mass extinction of species is happening while we speak. So we are causing nature unbelievable damage.
We have people who have good judgment and have good intellect, but they choose not to be in the government.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. Every single time I meet someone who I think you could be, they always say, oh, no, I don't want to be in the public. And it's such a hard thing.
It is hard.
Yeah, but then ultimately, sometimes you've got to accept that reality.
And democracy is a popularity contest. It's not a selection process for the most capable.
Yes, that's why I'm a merit guy. So I think that a lot of problems and that we have as humans can be delegated, but not in a sensible way. And then the other thing to say is that in democracies, you've got this sort of fixed term thing, which I'm against really, because
me too.
yeah, because if it's not
Not real
going,
democracy if it's
yeah,
legitimate.
well, exactly, yeah. If it's going well, you can let it run. If it's going badly, you can end it early. So I don't think that we should. And of course, in lots of countries, people say, you know, America, they've got midterms, and then you can only do certain things before and after that. And then you've got midterms to the next election. You think, goodness me, we're spending all of our efforts in trying to figure out, as you say, the sort of beauty parade. But what we should be doing is just hardcore solving problems, and we're not.
Yeah.
And we need to move to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy.
Well,
It's a tall order. Yeah.
it's a tall order, but we've got to do it, because the downside is a problem. If we don't start to solve these problems, we keep deferring things. We're terrible at that. We do it individually, and we do it at species level as well. We defer things constantly, but we're constantly reminded by people. We've broken through certain thresholds. We need to change, and we do need to really do stuff.
So from our politics, economy, societies to our environment,
Right.
we're not taking care of ourselves, right?
We're not.
And so now that we've observed this, what are your plans for the next 5-10 years? Yeah, how are you going to push on this?
So I think that we have this sort of common AI venture
Yes.
at which has come out of Cambridge University.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, we've started doing it, is we've got 3 layers to the business. We've got this sort of underlayer of collaborative engineering, sort of co-developing, sharing foundation,
Open source type.
Yeah, sort of managed open source, so it's available to the ecosystem,
club.
to the club. But there's a sort of a delay line, and there's a strategic delay line as to when that is released, as it were, to the public. But essentially, you've got members of a community co-developing foundational IP. So to trivialize it again, I like to use that term. If you take 10 banks that have some foundational IP problems, if 10 banks can agree on foundational IP that doesn't compromise their competitive advantage, then they can save themselves by 90%.
Yeah.
And that's just good economics. And they take those engineers and apply them within the bank to more areas where you can get competitive advantage.
Yep.
So that's the sort of under layer. Above that, you've got startups in AI, of course, that make use of that foundational IP, which is principally around computation. And then for startups to be funded, they need a venture capital layer,
Yep.
which comes from Anthemis and its investment partners, who are some of the big banks and so forth. So those are the three pieces of that business that we think could become very, very powerful as it were, the membership of, as you saw it, the sort of collaborative engineering club starts to increase and include necessarily government, industry, and academia. So academia, as you say, sometimes seems to, I mean, for example, it's quite funny in Cambridge, you got these all very bright people and some of the worst traffic jams in the world. You think, well, sorry guys, but can you not just kind of do something about it? And they'll say things like, yes, but it's been like this since medieval times. And you say, yes, I know. I wasn't actually here, but I've read about that. Yeah, then it was horses and dung and stuff. But, come on, really. So when they're involved in collaborative engineering, they are at the front line of tech development. And they do then become part of that sort of, which is what, going back to Singularity University, that aspirational sort of atmosphere,
build a future,
making stuff happen. Yeah. A lot of this is about waking people up. I mean, which is what we found, is they say, look, this is the state of the world. These are the things happening, and this is what you can do about it.
Yeah.
You just think,
where is the world going?
yeah, where is the world going? Where's the aspiration?
Yeah.
Where is the can-do stuff to make things happen? And this needs to be almost everywhere all the time.
Yeah. Not just in tech, but also in government, in economic leadership, and social leadership.
So we know that this can be done. It's not theoretical. It's building this sort of, as it were, this force field of capability that extends to a level such that you're empowering many more people to solve these challenges that you've got to solve. And of course, one of the many problems here is we've got countries sort of bombing each other and killing everybody. And while that's happening, you've got this sort of humans trying to figure out how to live on a planet problem. So you've got this sort of multiplicity of vectors of problem solving all at the same time. It's almost as though you're trying to repair a NASCAR while it's on the track, which is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
I need a new engine guy. That's going to work. So that is where we are.
I hope that this organization you're building will result in people that do the right things, not just in technology, but they will mature and go into other aspects of life. Right?
Yes.
And do the right things in those aspects of life that matter to, I think, countries. Right? And I think we'll carry on this conversation over the next decade or two.
Yes, or 3 or 4.
3 or
One should
4.
be optimistic. We're only so young, and in our early 60s. I'm 61. I can't believe it. Sometimes I feel like I'm 12. I'm not sure there's anything wrong with that. I'm not sure, but I shouldn't be telling people. But but I think that again, it's a when you think about the future, you can make it such an amazing, exciting place that I think that this is where I try to. So doing all these grand challenges was to sort of inspire people, get them excited, and I found that happened. It was amazing, actually. Grand challenges. We had this. You'd have a big event. People would pitch. A lot of work before that, but that was a sort of like the World Cup final bit, and you could feel this excitement from the people who were present, who just thought it was just amazing to hear about people, young entrepreneurs, coming up with ideas to solve problems and getting money for doing so. So I would love to see much more of that.
I trust that at some point in time, maybe some of these kids grow up to be ministers and prime ministers and presidents, right?
Yes.
And help our countries get better.
Yes, I hope so. But I think that but they have to be willing to engage. Basically.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. One of my other problems to solve.
Another one.
Just one thing is that when I built, this is a silly thing, but it's a real thing as well. And this is for people who understand things like trees. I hope one day somebody can work out a way to grow a tree so that grown tree is a tree house. You cannot have a more sustainable thing. So when I built 2 of the tree houses I built, I pollarded the tree and then encouraged the tree to grow around the platform. So it became the walls over 10 years of the tree house, basically. So I think that when you think about, there are lots of things you can do with technology. You can build spaceships, you can build amazing motorbikes. I like motorbikes. Very fast cars. I like fast cars. You can figure out how to transport yourself, do different things like that. But at the same time, it would be great if we could just figure out how to just stop damaging our environment and have a great time at the same time.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I would imagine the world hopefully should become at some point. Here in this beautiful Singapore, which is full of trees. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess on that note, we should probably terminate this. Interesting term. Stop this. Stop this podcast.
Terminator.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great fun.
Thank you.
Cheers.